بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك ويسر أعين رب العالمين. So inshallah, as promised, bi'idhnillah, we're going to talk tonight inshallah about Qadar, Qadar of Allah Azza wa Jal. And what we will try inshallah to address tonight inshallah is the importance of this topic. What is Qada and Qadar? The importance of it. Where does it come from? The benefit of knowing such a thing. The limits that we have when it comes to Qada and Qadar. And then maybe inshallah address a few points that are, of contention, could be confusing inshallah. And then maybe leave inshallah some space for your questions inshallah. So we'll see how it goes. And if we need to, to continue this next week, or there's a topic related to it or an offshoot of it, we can do that also inshallah next week as well. So we don't have to do everything tonight, but we can try. So first of all, when we say the Qadar of Allah Azza wa Jal, the Qada and Qadar of Allah Azza wa Jal, what do we mean by it? That's the first thing. What do we mean by all of that? It really relates to Allah's knowledge and actions. So think about it in this way, and I'll explain. But it has to do with Allah's knowledge and Allah's actions. Meaning that Allah Azza wa Jal knew about everything, knows about everything, knew about everything from eternity. What's going to happen, what is happening, how it's going to happen in detail. Nothing escaped His knowledge. So it has to do with His knowledge. And also that He created everything. So nothing escapes His creation. Nothing escapes His destiny. Nothing escapes His plan. He planned it all, created it all according to His knowledge. So basically, if you want to distill Qadar, this is what it is. If you want to just expand on it a little bit, they divide it into Allah's knowledge, Allah writing down everything, Allah willing everything, and then creating everything. But all this goes back to Allah's knowledge and action, meaning that He knew about everything and He created it the way that He wanted. So nothing escapes His knowledge, nothing escapes His power. That's Qada and Qadar. Now, Rasulullah made it part of Iman. When He was asked about Iman, the pillars, He mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4. When He comes to the 6th, He says to believe in Qada and Qadar. Which tells you how important that is. It has benefits in this dunya, and it is related to belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Qada and Qadar, in fact, when you think about all the pillars of Iman, believing in the prophets of Allah is related to believing in Allah. Believing in the books of Allah is related to believing in Allah. All of them are bad, and they originate from believing in Allah Azza wa Jal. So Qada and Qadar originates from believing in Allah Azza wa Jal. So if you know Allah, and if you know Allah through His attributes, you must also believe in Allah's destiny. Because we said it's related to two things, right? Allah's knowledge and Allah's actions. So what is it about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His attributes that will make believing in Qada and Qadar a necessity and a pillar of Iman? Then we'll talk about its importance and the benefit that you get out of it. But what about believing in Allah and His attributes that leads to Qada and Qadar inevitably? You must believe in it. Well, if you know Allah to be the all-powerful, forget about Qadar for now. If you know that Allah to be all-powerful and nothing escapes His power, if you know Allah to be all-knowledgeable, all-seeing, all-hearing, including, of course, Alimul Ghayb. So Alimul Ghaybi wa Shahada, as Allah Azza wa Jal says about Himself in the Quran, He knows what is hidden and what is plain. Both. And what is hidden, Al-Ghayb, includes the future as well. Because, on the tongue of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah says in the Quran, لَوْ كُنْتُ أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبَ لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ وَمَا مَسَّنِيَ السُّوءُ. If I would know what is ghayb, what is hidden, what would I be able to do? لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ. I would bring most benefit to myself and no harm will touch me. So of course, if you know the future, what happens? You'll be able to protect yourself from harm. So when we say that Allah knows the ghayb, what does that also include? The future as well. So if you know Allah to be all-seeing, all-hearing, then nothing escapes Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then all-knowing means He knows the future as well. Nothing happened. He created everything. That means that whatever you are doing, whatever he and she are doing, whatever happens on this earth, Allah creates it. Take all of this, and what do you have? Qadar. This is what it is. That Allah knew about it before it takes place. That Allah had commanded the pen to write everything down 50,000 years before the creation of this earth. So whatever happens according to what the pen has written, which Allah had told it. This is going to happen on this day, in this time, in that place. And Allah wanted it this way, and Allah created it according to His will. That's basically what it is. So, qada and qadar really emanate from our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by the way, there is a connection between them. Because since qadar, and I'm just going to abbreviate and say qadar, since qadar is related to Allah's actions and knowledge, part of it will remain hidden from you, such as, or as much as, part of Allah will remain hidden from you. Right? I want you to remember this, inshallah, for later. So you can try to understand as much of it as possible. And you can try to understand as much of Allah as possible, but then part of it will remain beyond you, right? When it comes to Allah. So if I keep asking you questions about Allah, what would you ultimately have to tell me? I don't know. I don't know. I know this, but beyond it, I have no idea. With qadar as well, you can ask yourself or ask others, and they'll be able to answer until they reach a point, and then they'll say, well, we don't know. Because it has to do with Allah and His actions and His knowledge and His wisdom, which is not always clear to us. Sometimes, many times it is, but not always. Now, why is belief in qada and qadar so important? What does it do? Well, of course, it comes out of our belief in Allah Azza wa Jal. But what does it give you in this life? In the akhirah will give you Jannah, because it's a pillar. Without it, a person cannot be a believer. What does it give you in this world? Tawakkul. Right? That is, if you know that Allah has actually planned everything, and He has taken care of everything, as the brothers have said, will give you tawakkul, reliance upon Allah. Because who has power? Allah Azza wa Jal. You don't have it. Allah has power. And if you know that Allah had planned it, had orchestrated, had created everything in advance, then you don't put your trust in yourself, you don't put your trust in another human being, in your effort or in their effort, you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it gives you tawakkul. That's one thing. What else does it give you when you believe in qadar? Comfort. Exactly. Because when you lose, the problem with loss is that you don't have an answer. Why did it happen? Could I have stopped it? Could I have saved so and so? Could have events turned otherwise? Maybe I could have. But if you know that Allah wanted it to happen this way and no amount of effort or skill or intelligence could have actually changed it, you submit to Allah. So there is that surrender part and comfort part that qadar gives to you. And one who does not believe in qadar will not possess this comfort. Will always be tormented by doubts and by thoughts of, why did I cause this? Could I have done otherwise? So that is something else that it gives you. So we talked about tawakkul, we talked about comfort. What else could it give you? Patience. That's definitely the case too. Patience. So you will not be frustrated. Now, when are you frustrated? When you forget about qadar. I wanted it to happen this way, but it's not happening. It's not taking place yet. You're not frustrated if you know that Allah has a plan that sometimes is different than your plan. You can be the best of planners. Tomorrow I'm going to do this at this time, and then followed by this and followed by that. Comes tomorrow and all your plans unravel. Then if you know that Allah Azza wa Jal has a plan that supersedes your plan, that will give you patience. And actually, you will go along with Allah's plan rather than yours. When you cannot control it, Go with the qadar rather than your own plan. I want to be and I want to get this job, and by the age of this I want to have $1 million, and I want to all of this. But doesn't happen. So say, go with Allah's plan rather than your plan if your plan does not work. So it gives you patience. It also makes you brave. Right? When you know that Allah has already destined and written someone's death and someone's life. When they're going to be healthy, when they're going to be sick, all of that. So you know that no amount of effort, and here if you talk about it, we need to be wise, of course. But if Allah Azza wa Jal asks you to do something and others threaten you with that, if you do what Allah loves, then we're going to do this and that to you, you know that nothing happens except by Allah's will. They will not be able to harm you, they will not be able to touch you unless Allah Azza wa Jal wants that from you. So it does give you a lot in this life, and believing in Qadar is very valuable, and it's part of Iman, and no Iman could be there without believing in Qadar. Now, one of the questions that arise is that if Allah has destined everything, okay, so this is the first point. If Allah has destined everything, all of it is written down, am I compelled to act in a certain way, or do I actually have a choice? So when it comes to halal and haram, to heaven and hell, do I have a choice to go to heaven or to go to hell, to obey Allah or to disobey Allah? Or since it all is written down, I'm just simply compelled, I'm being programmed like a robot. I'm being programmed to perform what Allah wants out of me, and heaven and hell is already destined, so I'm just heading where I'm supposed to head. I have no say in it. Is that the case or not? Now, of course not. Now, how do we know that this is not the case? We can, inshallah, review several points or several types of evidence. One is to go back to the attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah Azza wa Jal is al-adl, just. Would you consider it to be just that you would punish someone for things that they're not responsible for, that they are compelled? See, he said no, right? No. In fact, Allah Azza wa Jal in the Sharia, if somebody compels you, you can act contrary to your own will and not be responsible for your actions and your sayings, right? So if somebody compels you, for instance, either disbelieve or you'll be killed. You are allowed to utter statement of disbelief. Are you responsible for it before Allah? In the Sharia itself, you're not. You're not responsible. So Allah in Sharia, in Islam, does not hold you responsible for when you are compelled. How would He then compel you and punish you for it? So that is not justice. That is not adl. Allah Azza wa Jal is adl. Add to it. Okay. Then Allah Azza wa Jal also says in the Quran, وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا أَفَأَنْتَ تُكْرِهُ النَّاسَ حَتَّى يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. He's speaking to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and you know how the Prophet was so eager for everyone to accept Islam. So Allah says, and if Allah had willed, everyone on the face of this earth would be a believer. لَآمَنَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ كُلُّهُمْ جَمِيعًا. All of them, all at once, they would be believers. So can you then, he's speaking to the Prophet, can you then compel anyone to be a believer? That is, Allah is saying to the Prophet, I did not compel them. Can you? If I wanted, everyone on this earth can be compelled and they will have Iman. But I did not do this. Meaning that I gave them freedom to choose this and that. So if I gave them that, could you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or any other human ever hope to convince someone otherwise if it's against their will? You can never force them. It means that what is your task then as a deliverer of the message? Is to simply deliver and let them decide, as Allah Azza wa Jal had let it be. And then also when Allah Azza wa Jal says, لا إكراه في الدين, there is no compulsion in religion. This means it is in Sharia, meaning that you're not allowed to compel people to accept Islam, right? You're not. But it's also the case with Allah Azza wa Jal that He does not compel you. لا إكراه في الدين. قد تبين الرشد من الغي. So the righteousness is very distinct from wickedness, from falsehood. So Allah is saying you cannot compel anyone. You simply just show them the way and then they will choose. So there is freedom of choice when it comes to Islam, to Iman, or to Kufr from the Quran and from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Add to it also that on a human level, we recognize that we have free will. In fact, if you think about our society and the laws that we have in any country, it's all based on the fact that you have free will. Otherwise, if there is no free will, why would there be ever a penalty or a punishment in law? So punishment acts sometimes as what? A deterrent. If you know that you're going to pay a fine, what do? You avoid the act. If you know that you're going to go to jail, if you commit this crime, what happens? You'll stop. What does it mean that you've stopped? It means that you've made a calculation and sort of like the cost of committing this thing is too high, so you stop doing it. So all the laws that we have in any society, all of them presuppose that you will look at the cost and you will decide that it is too costly and you will not do this. Otherwise, right, we will not have any law. Why? Because any legislator then he will say and she will say, if I legislate anything, the rate and the percentage of people doing this act before and after the legislation is the same. Like if you tell people, if you break a red light, you're going to pay a fine of $500. They say, if you have no free will, all of us are compelled to act. If you measure our compliance before this law and after it, you'll find it's the same thing. Because it doesn't matter whether you threaten us or not, we're compelled. We're going to act in certain ways that we have no control over, so we'll act in that way. You with me? The only way where actually this makes sense is that if you threaten a person, they'll respond to that threat. They'll only respond to that threat if they have free will and they decide, I don't want to save myself, I want to save my wallet. So that tells you that on a human level, all of us recognize that we have free will. If somebody insults you, you're angry with them, right? Somebody hits you, you respond back by hitting them or yelling at them. Why? Because you blame them for that act. Why do you blame them for that act? Because you know that they chose this thing. So when it comes to freedom of choice, we have freedom of choice. Now, a person may ask, well, how is it that Allah Azza wa Jal knew about all of this, destined it, created it, and yet I have freedom of choice? So we'll try to answer, inshallah, this question by approximation. We'll say, first of all, there's no contradiction. If Allah tells you that there is no contradiction between it, there's no contradiction. Because Allah, who only speaks the truth, tells you two things at the same time. You're free to choose, and I've destined all of this. So Allah speaks the truth. So if you cannot comprehend it with your mind, it means that you still need time to process this and understand it. But I'll try, inshallah, to approximate. And I will try, inshallah, what I'm to do is take what we know and apply it to what we not know in an approximate way. So, consider, on a human level here. Okay, leave Qadar aside. On a human level. If you happen to know someone very, very well, and you spend a lot of time with them, you talk, you understand their likes, dislikes, and everything. Then somebody comes, tells you, I want to invite so-and-so to try this new food. You tell him, no, he's not going to like it. Right? How do you know? He asks you. He says, I know him. Although he has not tasted this before, I know what he likes and I know what he dislikes. So he's not going to like this thing. Or he says, I'm going to go and propose this thing to him. He says, no, he will tell you this. He goes and proposes it to that person, and that person says exactly what you said he will say. How did you know this? From your background knowledge and your experience, you're able to predict what that person is able to say. Sometimes with a high level of accuracy. It may not always be right, but with a high level. I know what they like. I know what they dislike. I know this is how they will react. This is the word that they will be using. Now this is in proportion to what? How long do you spend with them? and how well you know them. Right? If you spent a long time with them and you know them very well, then you can actually be able to predict what they like and what they dislike, how they will behave, what is their strength and what is their weakness. Okay? Now, you've experienced something like this? Right? If that's true with a human being, okay, and consider the amount of knowledge that you have, the brain power that you have, how long you've spent on this earth and how long you've spent with this person, and you're able to make these predictions. Consider Allah Azza wa Jal, whose knowledge is what? Infinite. And His wisdom, or let's call it intelligence, when it comes to you, is infinite. And how long did He live, subhanahu wa ta'ala? Forever. And how well does He know you? He created you. It's not just, hey, I've been with you for 10 years or 15 or 50 years. I made you out of nothing. Allah knows every single atom and cell inside your body. So, I'm not saying Allah predicts. But if you were to say that such a being exists, what would their ability of prediction be? Almost 99.999, right? Because they know you very, very well. They made you out of nothing. So if that's the case, if you're able to, grasp this, it will not be you will not be able to view it with such difficulty that Allah could actually allow you to choose and know your choice beforehand. Know it very well. And based on that, knows also where will you go. Is it to heaven or hell? So Allah does give you that choice, but He already knows based on who you are, your background, your strength, your weakness, that, you're going to make this choice, but not that choice. You're going to believe in this, but not that. And then eventually you will be here, but not there. So Allah Azza wa Jal knows this as well. Now at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and this tells you about how the Prophet answered that question, okay, which is better than my answer. Because he did not indulge it. He did not indulge it and say, think about it this way, think about it that way. But he pointed the Sahaba to what actually benefits them. So when he said to the Sahaba, مَا مِنْكُم مِّنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا وَقَدْ كُتِبَ مَقْعَدُهُ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ أَوْ مَقْعَدُهُ مِنَ النَّارِ. He says, there's not one among you except it was been written for him, whether he's going to Jannah or hellfire. It's written down. So قالوا يا رسول الله, he says, O Prophet of Allah, shall we not simply not rely on what was written? So that if a person is destined to go to Jannah, they just go to Jannah, and if they're destined to go to hell, they just go to Jahannam, and that is it. She will just not rely on what is written. قال لا. He says no. So that first one is significant because it's coming from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that thinking is wrong. So stop. He says no. أما من كان من أهل الجنة فييسر لعمل أهل الجنة وأما من كان من أهل النار فييسر لعمل أهل النار اعملوا فكل ميسر لما خلق له. He says no. He says if a person is going to go to heaven, then he will be or will find it easy to do the work of the people of heaven. He'll be facilitated. He will do the work of the people of heaven. And if he is written to be of the people of hellfire, he will do the actions of the people of hellfire. Worship Allah, obey Allah, because you will be eased towards where you're going. Meaning you'll make a choice, and that choice is the thing that is going to take you. So in other words, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying, don't trouble yourself thinking about what Allah has written for you. Is it heaven or is it hell? Because, is it accessible? It's not. So it's foolish to sit and think, Allah must have written that I'm in Jannah. How do you know? Or Allah must have decided I'm in hellfire. How do you know? What's the only thing that you have access for? Ghaib, you have no access. What is the only thing that you have access? Present, shahada, right here. The choice that you are making. So it's saying, consider what you are doing right now. If you are making the right choices and you continue to make the right choices, that is a sign that Allah has written it for you that you're going to go to Jannah. And if you're making the bad choice, and one after the other, these are all bad choices, this is a sign right here that Allah may have written that you're going to be of the people of hellfire. Consider what you have control over at this moment. The rest, you have no access. So leave it. So both of these things are not incompatible. That you do have freedom, and at the same time, that Allah Azza wa Jal knows about it. Now, I'm going to address the second question, but before I go to the second question, also Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said about Qadar, إِذَا ذُكِرَ الْقَدَرُ فَأَمْسِكُوا. He says, when you mention or you're going to be talking about Qadar, or when it comes up, then don't speak or don't engage. So what does he mean sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by it? إِذَا ذُكِرَ الْقَدَرُ فَأَمْسِكُوا. Meaning that don't engage in this subject without knowledge. And don't talk about it aimlessly, without evidence, just with your own thoughts, with your own thinking. He says, don't approach it this way. And don't approach it in a way where you would think that you can understand everything about it. Because as some of the scholars have said, Al-Qadar sirrun min asrarillah. Qadar is one of the secrets of Allah Azza wa Jal. Meaning you'll be able to grasp, but then there will come a point where you'll be unable to. So yes, discuss Qada and Qadar, understand it, see what Allah and His Prophet had said about it, but then beyond that, don't let it confuse you. Take from it what you need, and then worship Allah Azza wa Jal, and leave the rest up to Allah. Now, the other question that I wanted, inshallah, to address tonight is the question of evil. How is it that evil exists in this world, and Allah Azza wa Jal allows it, Allah has destined it? If Allah could intervene, why did He not intervene? Why did He not stop it? And that question, has, as I can imagine, has two components to it. One intellectual and one emotional. That is, a person may be asking this question intellectually, purely on an intellectual level. I don't understand how the Creator, who is described as being merciful and powerful and compassionate, could allow this. And He does not need human suffering. Why would He allow this? So on an intellectual level, the question comes up. It also, though, comes up on an emotional level. Someone who is either going through some difficulty himself and herself, or is witnessing another's difficulty. And so they cannot reconcile the fact that I'm feeling pain and I cannot remove it, or I cannot help that other person, and I don't understand why the Creator would allow something like this. So then, if Allah destines everything, how could this be reconciled with Allah's mercy and Allah's wisdom, etc., etc.? And of course, inshallah, in trying to answer this question, also note that a lot of the people who end up doubting the existence of Allah, and they may have actual concerns or actual questions that have not been answered, or those who are trying to find an excuse not to believe in Allah, they use this part to reject belief in the divine. Meaning, I will not believe in a God that does this. Or I cannot believe in God anymore. They had a belief before. I could not believe in God anymore because I cannot understand why we need to suffer. If God is there, why we didn't simply just remove this suffering? So a believer, the position of the believer is that I'll try to understand, but if I don't understand, I'll surrender until I understand. I'll surrender until I understand. And that, inshallah, should be an important aspect in our relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. That is, I'm not going to hold Allah Azza wa Jal responsible for every small thing I do not understand. And if you do not understand this small thing, I'm rejecting you. Even on a human level, you don't live like that. You actually surrender to experts and specialists. Right? So, let me tell you. Your car breaks down, you go and take it to the mechanic, and if you're someone like me, you have no clue about your car and how to fix it, right? The mechanic comes out and he tells you, we need to change this part and that part. It's all like a foreign language to you. What do you tell him? What? Fix it, right? I want to drive this car, fix it. What have you done there? You've surrendered, you've submitted to someone, hopefully an honest person, to someone who you think has knowledge that you don't. You have no idea what they're doing. You don't have the time to go and investigate and study and fix this car yourself, or not even to study so that you understand what he's saying. So you go and submit. You say, okay, I know that you know what you're doing. Go ahead and fix it. And he hands you the car ready to run, and you ride it, and you give them money, and you go on. You don't know what's working, how it's working. You just simply know that it's working. Or you go to the doctor, and how many times have we gone to the doctor? He gives you medicine, or gives you your condition and this and that. Do you really understand it? Like even a painkiller, do you really understand? But if you're a doctor, don't raise your hand. Say, I do. All right? But if not, do you really understand how painkillers work? Really? Like if somebody asks you, I have no clue how it works. But you take it. Why do you take it? Why are you so foolish? You're taking something that you don't even know how it works. Or he prescribes another medicine. He says, take this medicine, it's supposed to work. And you go to the pharmacist and you take, how come you're taking something you don't understand how it works? Why do you do this? Yeah. You trust, because you trust that he has knowledge that you don't. You do not have the time to understand everything on the face of this earth. No one has. So you have to submit to experts. Do you have the time to study medicine and all of its branches? Biology and all of its branches? Chemistry, physics, astronomy, everything in all of its branches, and all of its small details, so that you can understand everything in this universe? Do you? No. So even the most intelligent person on this earth, the most learned person on this earth, there are areas that she does not understand. So they have to submit to experts. I have no idea how this works. Here, you tell me. And then they tell you, and then you follow. This is human expertise. Right? So how about when we're talking about Allah the Divine, who has everything? So if you've already have established that Allah is there and He exists, that He is all knowledgeable, all wise, etc., 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 you also should at times submit to Allah even if you do not understand the wisdom of His revelation or the wisdom of His cosmic commands. Because Allah's commands are of two types. Allah could tell you, pray, fast. Do you understand the wisdom of all of Allah's revelation? Do you? We understand some of it, right? If I tell you, give zakah, you understand why, right? But why Isha is so late? Isn't it difficult? Why is Isha so late? Or Fajr so early? Do you really know? It could have been different, but do you really know exactly why? You don't. Or you know, so why Isha 4 and Maghrib 3? You have an answer? So you don't understand the full wisdom of Allah's, revelation, but most of it you do. So you trust, you rely on what you know to understand or to trust or to believe in what you do not know. Does that make sense? And cosmically it's the same. You focus on what you know from Allah to be wise, to be merciful, to be compassionate to what you see and you can comprehend. And you use that to understand or at least believe in what you do not know, to unlock the secrets of what you do not know. And by the way, this is how human inquiry proceeds, isn't it? If you're a scientist or you're a detective and you want to solve a crime, how do you solve it? You take what you know to solve what you do not know. That's exactly how we do it. So even in Islam, you take what you know and you have it shed light and explain what you do not know. Right? So if we see something, for instance, that we consider to be evil and I do not understand yet the wisdom behind it, why it happens, what do I say? I understand Allah's wise. So there must be a reason behind this, even if I don't see it. Is that blind faith? I don't call it blind faith. Blind faith is when you trust someone without evidence. That is to me blind faith. But that type of faith is faith based on evidence. I trusted Allah before because I could see that He's reliable. I could see that I can trust Him. So when it comes matters or to issues where I don't really know the reason, I'll still trust Him. Okay? I'll give you an example. You meet somebody in the street and he tells you, it's an emergency. Give me your car keys, I'll return them after an hour. You don't know them. Would you give your keys to them? If you're really, really nice, you may. I call that blind faith. That's blind. You're just trusting because you decided to trust. You have no idea if that car is coming back or not, right? But if a friend, a dear friend that you've tested repeatedly and you trust him like you trust yourself, he comes and says, I need your car, I don't have time to explain, it'll be back in an hour. If you give him the keys, is that blind? No. So you see, understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Allah Azza wa Jal. Why do you trust Him in circumstances that you cannot fully grasp? Is because previously Allah Azza wa Jal, not that He needs to, but He had proven Himself to you. Being reliable, being trustworthy, being merciful, compassionate. So I will take this to understand other parts that are not yet clear. So that's, inshallah, keep that in mind. If and whenever things that are incomprehensible come up in your life or anybody's life. But evil. Why is there evil? First of all, inshallah, first principle is that there is no such thing in this life that we can call pure evil. It is only relative evil. And there's quite a difference between the two. Pure evil means it's pure evil from every action, angle, and direction. It produces no good consequences at all. It's like a completely black hole that sucks all goodness in it and produces no light at all. That is pure evil. What is relative evil? Relative evil is that it is harmful when you look at it from a particular angle. In one place or in one time, that's evil. But if you consider the full picture of everything that Allah Azza wa Jal had intended, if you look at past and present and future and the complexity of past, present, and future, that thing is never going to be pure evil, only relative evil to some people in some time and in some place. But it can never be pure evil. Why is there no pure evil? Because Allah Azza wa Jal is all good. Allah produces no pure evil. Pure evil is just like what? A human being killing another human being for the sake of fun. Huh? That on part of that human being and what they've decided, that's pure evil what they've done. Right? Somebody stealing for the sake of stealing. Insulting someone for the sake of insulting them. There's no good that comes out of it. So this person has decided to commit that evil. But what Allah decides is very different. So we'll consider, inshallah, here, first of all, as an illustration, the story of Musa and Al-Qadar. Because that story is very rich. And you look at it, you can look at it and learn so much from it. One thing that you can learn from it is action that seems to be evil is not evil under another light. When you really understand the full picture. And when Allah Azza wa Jal was telling us and was telling Musa alayhi salam that story, was telling us what? This is what you know. Because this is, by the way, this is what Al-Qadar said. When they were on the boat with Musa alayhi salam, and a bird came, and he took one drop of water out of that river. What did Al-Qadar say? He says, our knowledge compared to the knowledge that Allah has is less than that one drop that bird had taken from this river. You with me? So how much do we know compared to what Allah knows is less than this one drop out of a large flowing river. So you told him this. What's the benefit of that? Benefit is that when you look at something and you decide that it is A or B or C, but Allah is telling you otherwise, trust Allah. Because what He knows is far greater than what you know. What you know does not even compare. So, when Al-Qadar went and he sort of pulled out one of the planks of that boat and he disfigured that boat, harmed the people by what they've done. That action, like that when you look at it only with this information, doesn't it look like evil? And this is why Musa objected. Because what did Musa see? What did Musa know? What did he understand? This is what you're doing. You're repaying a people who, carried us from one bank to the other, across the river, by destroying their boat. That is evil. How did he explain to him what he did later? Right? When they decided to part ways. How did he explain it to him? He said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, Ya Musa, if you were just to simply see what I see, know what I know, expand your gaze, you will see that later So who knows the future except Allah? Allah Azza wa Jal, right? So later, there's going to be a king, and he's a tyrant. And if he passes by their boat, he will confiscate it. So I disfigured that boat so when he looks at it, he will leave it to them. And by that, their property will be saved. So what looks like evil to you, O Musa, what is it? It's a good deed. Right? So the next one, when he went and he killed that little boy. And that, by the way, Musa did not forget then that he had made this promise to Al-Qadar. But just the difficulty of what he saw. A young boy playing, and Al-Qadar goes and he just kills him. Just consider how difficult that is to witness. So he couldn't stop himself telling him, what have you done? So how does he explain it to him? What does he tell him? And again, this is knowledge that only Allah has. No one else has this knowledge. That is, this little boy, if he were to grow up, he would grow up what? A non-believer, a kafir. And if he grows up a kafir, he will burden his parents and push them into disbelief themselves. So what was best for them? To continue to have that child or to lose him? It's difficult, but to lose him. So this act that Al-Qadar did that looked like it's evil, what is it? Mercy or not? What do you think? It's mercy, because it's to their benefit. And someone may say, why didn't Allah simply not give it to them in the first place? Just not give them that child. Why give them that child and then take it away? Because one thing, is losing a child has its benefit as well. In the akhirah, definitely, and maybe possibly in the dunya as well. What are the benefits in the akhirah of loss? Which only ties into also why Allah Azza wa Jal destines difficulty in this life. What's the benefit of losing a child or loss in general in the akhirah? What does it do? So that's one thing. The child, right, can take the parents to Jannah, can lead them to Jannah. He will be waiting for them. So that's one thing. What's the other benefit? Any loss, not just this loss, but any loss for a person to experience in this world, what will they see in Jannah? What's its benefit? There is reward if they are patient, and it removes their sins. So that if Allah were to ask that person, when they are in Jannah, or before they enter it, if you had the choice of keeping that child, or keeping that thing that you love so much in the dunya, or being rewarded for it in heaven, which would you choose? What would that person say? I would choose what you've chosen. I would choose what you've chosen, because it's the best choice. And that's what believing in Qadar actually does. Because when we believe that Allah acts, all of Allah's actions are related and linked to His wisdom. So all of His actions are wise. It's not chaotic. It's not ruthless. It's not vengeful. So somebody says, Allah is like punishing me. Allah is not vengeful. Even when Allah Azza wa Jalla is sending something our way because of our sins, why does He send it because of our sins? Simply because He wants just to destroy? What does He want to do? He wants to remind. He wants to wake you up. He wants to forgive your sins. He wants to bring you closer to Jannah, save you from hellfire. So loss in this dunya has its benefits as well. And these benefits are in the akhirah, mainly. But they are also in the dunya as well. What are some of the benefits of loss in the dunya? If Allah Azza wa Jal, first of all, is not going to take something away from you, that will corrupt you. If Allah had given you, consider if you have raised a child, raising a child, or if you know people who are raising a child. And whenever that child wants something, what do? Here, take it, take it, take it. What type of person would that be when he's an adult? The worst. The worst. So if you do not take away, if you do not deprive, you're not going to teach that person responsibility. If Allah gives you what you want all the time, you'll be spoiled. You'll not be thankful. You'll hurt people around you. You'll be full of pride. You'll be arrogant. You'll be ruthless. You'll be without mercy, without compassion. You will not feel people's pain. You'll not rush to help them. But when do you start feeling people's pain? When you experience it. When you know what suffering is. Remember when about Ramadan we say, and I do not know if we actually feel this or not. We fast because we want to feel what the poor feel. I don't know if we do this or not, but it's true, at least in theory. When you're hungry, then when somebody tells you I'm hungry, you remember your own feeling of hunger. Then you would give them. If you've never went hungry, how do you even understand what hunger is? How do you understand what suffering is if you did not suffer? So for you to actually be a better human being, you need to experience loss. And you will find people who dedicate their lives, a lot of them who dedicate their lives to trying to help people, save them from poverty, save them from illness and disease, going, subhanAllah, into areas that, there's no electricity, there's no medicine, and they go and they risk their own lives. Why do they do this? Because there is a suffering in their life that moves them to help other people. So there is benefit in it. So the limit of Allah's knowledge, going back to the story of Musa and Al-Qadar alayhim as-salam, it tells you that when you look at it this way, when you focus a very small light on this thing, this is evil. This is hard. This is suffering, especially when it happens to you. Because when it happens to you, you can only see your pain. You can't see anything else around you and beyond you. But when you expand the light and you look at it in terms of what's happening, past, present, and future, how what is happening to you affects not only you, but a lot of other people around you, how you are also part of a story that is unfolding. And you may not realize it. Okay? You can trace. Okay, not that it's the only reason. You can trace World War I, okay, to a driver who has taken a wrong turn and a wrong street. And by that, someone was assassinated. The emperor was assassinated. And you get allies who are fighting each other. And the fall of the Ottomans. You can trace it all to the death, somebody shooting that emperor and killing him. Why was he able to kill him? Because his driver took a wrong turn and he was in a different street than the one that he was supposed to take. He shot him. That sparked World War I. It's not the only reason. But that small incident, and if you want to even complicate that further, the one who made the gun, and the one who taught that person how to shoot, and the one who taught the driver how to drive, and the one who made the car, and the one who paved that street, and how Allah had destined that they would meet at that place at that particular second. Who planned all this? So you think that, this small thing that is happening to me is irrelevant, isn't only relevant to me. But Allah has this great thing that He's building and you're part of it. So what's happening to you is part of it. So World War I starts because of a wrong turn. The Ottomans fall because of it. Colonization in the Muslim world happens because of it. A lot of you are here because of it. World War II happens because of it. World history changes because of it. Chains of events take place. Allah only knows how and why and where, but chains of events take place because something small that is happening to you and to me. So when you say to yourself sometimes, why is it that I did not get that job and somebody else got it? Well, you don't see Allah's full plan, do you? How you actually losing this job will affect history, and how him having that job will affect history, and will affect people around you. How, let's say for instance, God forbid, you get into an accident. Right? How the fact that you've been delayed and delayed another person and delayed everybody in the street affects all of their lives and who they will meet and who will they miss meeting and how that changes everybody's lives, including yours, is something that is unimaginable. It's beyond us. So don't distill everything that is happening to mean that this is simply suffering. No. Allah Azza wa Jal has a plan for everybody. You say, but I still have pain. I still have pain. I don't understand. Did Allah Azza wa Jal, why did Allah give it? We say first of all, no pain will last. And Allah Azza wa Jal will erase that pain when you meet Him. It's not that your memory will be erased, but that pain will go away. So if somebody has trouble with, look at the suffering of so-and-so, or the suffering of children, or the suffering of animals, Allah will erase all that suffering away. Say, what's the evidence for this? Very famous hadith, where the Prophet ﷺ says that, يُؤْتَى بِأَشْقَى أَهْلِ الدُّنْيَا وَأَنْعَمِ أَهْلِ الدُّنْيا. So the person who suffered the most in this life, and the person who enjoyed the greatest luxury and comfort in this life, both of them will be brought. And the one who suffered the most will be of the people of Jannah, and the one who experienced the greatest comfort will be of the people of hellfire. This person will be dipped once in Jannah, and that person will be dipped once in hellfire. Just like that, dip, a dunk, and that's it. Then Allah will ask the person who suffered the most, did you experience any pain? And he says, no, wallahi, I did not experience. And we'll ask the person who actually enjoyed himself the most in this life, did you experience any pleasure or comfort after that dip in hellfire? He says, wallahi, I did not experience any. So all of this evaporates and will not exist. So he's saying, why is it that Allah Azza wa Jal lets people experience that suffering or that pain in this life? He say it's actually an important component of it. Remember the part that we talked about having freedom of choice? You cannot have freedom of choice if there are no bad choices. If there is no pain, if there is no suffering, there is no freedom of choice. So freedom of choice means what? The the freedom to choose, or the ability to choose between right and wrong, helping and hurting, advancing people's benefits or harming them, good and evil, relief or pain and suffering. That's what freedom of choice means. So Allah Azza wa Jal, for people to actually have the ability to choose, Allah must give them the ability to commit evil, the ability to kill and steal, the ability to inflict pain and suffering and make other people cry. They must have that ability. And for them to choose not to do so, but to do what Allah Azza wa Jalla loves. So this is there and that is there. Without that, there is no freedom of choice. And one benefit of Allah allowing people, those who will choose evil, to choose evil, is that by that, righteousness will also become clear. And then the people who are righteous will rise to defend righteousness, to defend what Allah loves, against the proponents of evil. So whenever you see evil on the rise, that is a good sign in a sense. Why? Because that is a sign or a call for the righteous to also rise and combat that evil. And Allah loves that, loves the fact that human beings who love Allah will rise and fight the evil that Allah Azza wa Jal hates. Why does Allah love that? And this brings us, inshallah, to the point of why did Allah instill evil on the face of this earth? And this opposition between good and evil. Why did Allah place the shaitan? Why does Allah Azza wa Jal love for people to rise and oppose evil? Is it easy? It's not easy. What does it require? For you to actually fight evil, what does it require? Courage and tawakkul and tarbiyah. And will it cost you? Severely sometimes. Sacrifice. That's what I was getting at. All what you said is excellent. So what I wanted to reach is sacrifice. That is, you could be comfortable in your own home, with your own family, having your own money, just safe. I don't want to do anything about this. I don't want to jeopardize any of these things. But when you decide to combat, to face evil, you risk losing everything. So actually you lose your comfort and peace of mind, and you lose your money, and you lose your loved one, and some of us lose their lives. And these are the most precious things that we have. We love them. Allah had put that love in us. Yet, When will you lose all of that? When you start loving Allah more than you love this. And without actually that test, you will not be able to develop that love. Right? Because that test is the thing that is going to actually challenge you. If everything is fine, the love of Allah and righteousness in you is dormant, is sleeping. Is sleeping. There's nothing actually to ignite it, to spark it. But then when you find an evil and you rush to try to save somebody, righteousness has started to grow. And if you put him and her before yourself, then you understand what sacrifice is. And if you think to yourself, Allah loves this, but I love money. Allah loves this, but I love my family. And if I do what Allah loves, I'm going to lose them. But you do what Allah loves, that means that you love Allah more than you love these things. And then the love of Allah develops. And you start loving Allah more than you love everything else. And this is why Allah had put you on this earth. To extract from you what is already dormant in you, potentially, but to actually extract from you loving Allah more than anything else. And when you love Allah more than anything else, you'll be in Jannah. This is why Allah created you, to love Him. So when we say, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, I did not create jinn and ins except to worship me, this is what it means. To worship me does not mean simply just for them to pray, just movements, just for them to give the zakah, and just for them to go to Hajj. These are means, and they are necessary till you die. You can never stop doing them. But they are means towards what? Knowing Allah and loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and doing the right thing despite obstacles. So this is what makes you different. What time is it?
10 to 9.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop. So this is what makes you different than angels. So the last thing, inshallah, that I'd say. How are you different than angels? Angels, do they have that struggle? No. They don't have that desire, and they don't have the temptations of the shaitan. And they are not here in this life struggling against evil. They're up there. So the angels of Allah are very different than you. And if you're able to actually win that test and love Allah more than you love this world, you'll be better than the angels of Allah. And this is what Allah created human beings, so that He can put them through this test and extract out of them the best of Allah's creation. And without evil, relative evil, not pure, that would not be a possibility. So this is, inshallah, as much as I could, muster, a discussion about Qadar. But of course, I'll leave, inshallah, the rest for you to ask. If there are questions you need to ask, inshallah, or points that I did not cover, inshallah, do let me know that, well, there's this thing, that question you did not cover. I'll be able, inshallah, to do that next week, inshallah, if there's anything. Inshallah. Yes.
My question is related to your last point, that the gist of all those ibadah and doing the daily prayer, the zakat, the siyam, is essentially to bring out the love of Allah and making it the supremest love compared to everything else. Okay. Now, you also talked about it requires sacrifice. Okay? It requires putting your, let's say, if you want to, if you're ready to everything that you work hard on. What if someone doesn't find that at first? For example, if I were to struggle, that would result in family injustice, or let's say losing a house, family, things of that. And I don't find it very good. Am I not it's just not.
Okay. So the question that brother has is that related to what we talked about, is that sacrificing for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, that is the purpose of our life on this earth, and that if a person fails to sacrifice for the sake of Allah, in a case, for instance, where that choice will jeopardize his family's security or his family's well-being, and if a person fails to make that choice, does that mean that that person does not love Allah Azza wa Jal, so that person is not going to Jannah? No, it doesn't mean that. Because what we're talking about, inshallah, is that at a basic level, there has to be that sacrifice. So we do actually have that basic love for Allah Azza wa Jal if we perform Allah's obligations. So if you're committing, you're performing your salah, despite the fact that you like to do something else, but you're coming to the masjid and performing your salah, you're giving zakah despite loving money, you're going to hajj despite loving money, you're at least doing the obligations. That minimum level of love is there. And that is the thing that will take a person to Jannah. Of course, the person, the more that he develops his worship, the more that he prays to Allah Azza wa Jal, here's the voluntary, or when he's faced with a choice between halal and haram, and he chooses the halal even though it is costly, the more that he does that, the greater that love that he'll have for Allah Azza wa Jal. But if sometimes we are weak, sometimes we don't make that choice, it just simply means that we've lacked the strength of iman at that point, but it does not doom us to hellfire. So, inshallah, it's not terrifying that if you are not that strong, that means that you're going to go to hellfire. Yeah.
Firstly, just a little bit
Exactly.
it's a really deep topic and it's confusing at times.
Right.
I recently read, maybe 4, 5, 6 months ago, an imam, somewhere, I can't remember exactly what it is, that there's Qadar in the major things, the big things, but in some of the smaller things that Allah makes allow as we go. Now to me, that sounded kind of not what we believe in.
Yeah.
So could you clarify that point and whether it is legitimate or there is some truth in it, or what is just somebody told them what they don't know?
Okay.
Don't talk about these things unless you have to.
Exactly. So the question of the brother is that he had heard someone mention that there is qadar when it comes to the big point, to the big decisions, the big things. But when the small things, the small details, that Allah Azza wa Jal decides them as He goes on. And of course that belief is wrong, is absolutely wrong. That Allah Azza wa Jal destines everything, big and small, nothing escaping His knowledge and nothing escaping His plan. There is no reason to distinguish between the big and the small. And even trying to distinguish between them, how do you know what is big and how do you know what is small? Sometimes the small is really big and it leads to other big things as well. So really that distinction is not in itself valid, and it lacks any evidence from the Quran and from the Sunnah. The evidence actually overwhelmingly points to the other, in the opposite direction, that Allah Azza wa Jal, when He says that there's no small leaf that falls except He knows about it, no raindrop except that He knows about it, except that it is with Allah's destiny, it tells you that every small thing, Allah Azza wa Jal controls it, right? And it only happens when Allah wants it to happen. Barakallah. Qada and Qadar, it's easy but complex, and it's complex when you have no knowledge and you talk about it, then you could be easily misguided and you can just come up with very strange sort of opinions about it. I know it's late, so I don't blame you if you don't have any questions. Yeah, totally.
Even the age, because I heard the age is destined.
Naam, even the age is destined. And there's, let me mention, there's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. So let's explain it. It's good to explain. من أحب أن ينسأ له في أجله ويبسط له في رزقه فليصل رحمه. He says the one who would like his life to be extended, his age to be extended, and for his rizq to actually be abundant, to increase, let him connect with his kin. Let him be kind to his kin, to his family. So, of course, the scholars have asked, how is it that your life can be extended if it is already destined? So what does it mean? It means that Allah Azza wa Jal knows, He already knows. that you're going to be kind to your kin and he's going to extend your life and it's going to be like that. But they said it'd be written like that, with the angels, especially with the angels of Allah. If that person is not going to be kind to his family, he lives till he's 60. If he's kind to his family, he lives till he is 70. Right? And Allah knows, are you going to do this or are you going to do that? And Allah knows what your age is going to be. So this is Allah Azza wa Jal prompting you that if you actually want to live, because you don't have no idea how long you're going to be living. If you want to live longer, and if you want Allah to give you more money, one of the causes for you living longer and actually having more money is actually being nice to your family. So when you're nice to your family, Allah will cause you to live longer. So it would be a cause. Like other causes as well. Like if you exercise, if you eat well, these are all causes. Not definite causes, but probable causes for you to live longer. So it's the same thing. I just want to see if there's anyone else before I go to you. Okay. Oh, I wouldn't call it like a loop or a way out of the Qadar, right? If it's written conditionally. It's in a sense, Allah Azza wa Jal presenting humanity with that option, Him knowing very well what choice they're going to make. So just like, for instance, like I mentioned to the brother, if someone can say, why should we exercise if we're already destined to live a particular amount of time, or eat well? Well, all of these things are contributing factors that will help. And Allah had already embedded that in your age. That is, if that person, and He knows whether you're going to do it or not. So there's no escaping it. If Allah knows you're going to be doing it, you're going to be doing it. So if you exercise and if you do this, you're going to live long. And if you're not doing it, then your life may be shorter, right? It may not happen, but typically that's what you think about. So all these causes are already embedded in Allah's knowledge and embedded in what Allah has decided for you. So you'll be doing them. Your choice, but they will influence how long you're going to be living, how healthy you will be, how prosperous your family is going to be. So it's all already there. Well, question? Yeah, alaikum salam. Barakallahu fiki. So the power of the mother's dua, or let's say any dua, but particularly the mother's dua is very strong. Can it change the qadar? So the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يرد القضاء إلا الدعاء. Okay, لا يرد القضاء إلا الدعاء. So qada, or Allah's destiny that is coming down, is not going to be pushed back except by dua. And again, this ties to what we have talked about here and over here. Meaning that, what does the Prophet ﷺ mean? Allah's destiny is Allah's destiny, right? But Allah Azza wa Jal, just to show you the virtue of dua and the power of dua, Allah will destine something to come down. So sickness, or poverty, or an accident. And then somebody already will be making dua. And that dua will come up and push away that qada from Allah Azza wa Jal and change it. Okay? Now, here's the question. Does Allah know that you're going to be making this dua? Okay, so it's not problematic. Okay? So I said, why am I making this dua if Allah knows that I'm making it? It's because if you don't do it, okay, it's just like if you don't go to work, you're not earning money. You're not going to earn money if you don't work. Same thing. If you're not going to make this dua, you're not going to get that thing. Allah has made it consequential. She's going to be making that dua that will save her child. So you have to make it. So when you make it, actually a qada could be coming down with whatever, right? That's something that you hate and will take it away. But already Allah knows that you're going to be making this dua. So it's not new to Allah. Allah already knows it. Does that make sense? Okay. Barakallahu fikum. Yes, sister. Okay, inshallah. طيب. So the question is that Allah Azza wa Jal is all merciful, but it says that the non-believers are going to be in hellfire forever and ever. So how could it be that Allah could be so merciful and yet will put the non-believers in hellfire forever and ever? So inshallah, I'll give you two answers to this. The first answer is, rest assured that Allah is all merciful. And rest assured that these are the slaves of Allah Azza wa Jal. So the way that Allah will deal with them is both just and merciful at the same time, right? So leave it up to Allah Azza wa Jal and how He will deal with them and what He will do with them. Because these, no matter what happens, these are not ours, they belong to Allah. And Allah will deal with them. Right? So let it be up to Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah will deal with them as He sees fit. So that's the first one. So we shouldn't trouble ourselves with thinking about it. It says we'll leave it up to Allah. Ya Allah, as Isa alayhi salam said in the Quran, "In tu'adhibhum فَإِنَّهُمْ عِبَادُكَ." Is if you punish them, they are your slaves. Meaning I have no power over it. You know what is best for them and what best to do with them. وَإِن تَغْفِرْ لَهُمْ فَإِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. But if you forgive them, you are Al-Aziz and Al-Hakim, the powerful and the wise. So that's one thing. That's one answer. Okay. There's another answer, and I usually don't share it unless somebody asks this type of question, if it is something problematic to them or for some non-believers. The majority opinion, the overwhelming number of scholars historically have all said, the majority have said, that when Allah puts the non-believers in hellfire, in Jahannam, they'll be there forever, meaning there is no end to their punishment. A minority among Muslim scholars have said there will be a time, right? They will spend a long time in hellfire, but there will be a time when hellfire will expire. I'm sorry? Yeah. So that is a minority opinion, that hellfire will expire. Meaning that Allah Azza wa Jal did not create, and that's their argument. And one of them is Ibn al-Qayyim, who when he talks about it seems to be favoring that opinion, though he does not come wholeheartedly and say yes, but he seems to be leaning in that direction. He says Allah Azza wa Jal, he says it's conceivable that Allah would create a people to bless forever. Inconceivable that He will create a people, no matter what they do, for Him to punish them forever and ever and ever. So then there will have to come a time, yes, they will spend a long time in hellfire, but there will come a time when hellfire itself will cease to exist, will expire, and they will no longer be punished. So that's a minority opinion among them, and they do cite some evidence for it. So if that's something that is troubling you, know that that opinion is also there. Inshallah. Tafadhali. Oh, so that if they live forever, they would be committing the same crimes forever. That's why they are in hellfire forever. Okay, so that there is so much evil in them, right? That it's not really extracted by all that. I mean, maybe. Barakallahu fiki for sharing that. Na'am? Na'am. That's true. I'm just responding to a common question of how could Allah Azza wa Jalla. So I'm saying that there is that majority opinion and there is this small minority opinion. Yes, I understand. But it's just in case it's really troubling a person, at least they understand that there is more than... That's true, and that's what the majority of Muslim scholars will say, is that they've been presented with evidence after evidence, and they've rejected it all and rejected Allah Azza wa Jalla and have committed so many crimes against Allah that, as you said, they don't deserve mercy anymore. So that's there. I'm not going to deny it. That is there. Sure. You have any... you still? Okay, I just want to see... No, you have a question? So if someone is angry and they make dua against their children, especially a parent, and then afterwards, they go and regret it and they make istighfar and they ask Allah Azza wa Jal, will it cancel it? We say we hope so. So let's make the opposite dua. Make the opposite dua. Not just simply istighfar, but say, Ya Allah, I was angry, Ya Allah, bless them. So make the opposite, a good dua, opposite the bad dua that you made. And we hope that Allah Azza wa Jal will accept it. If a person is unaware, and they say a dua where they really are not in control of what they're saying, then we say that they're not responsible for it. If they're conscious of what they're saying, they're angry, but they're conscious that they are making dua against so and so, even though they're angry, but they're aware of what they're saying, that's still a dua. And that's why we're saying dua is very, very serious. So if you're angry, don't involve Allah. Right? Don't involve Allah. Ya Allah, kill so and so, curse so and so, take this, that, because that is serious, because you do not know. Because the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, لا تدعوا على أموالكم ولا أنفسكم ولا أولادكم. He says, don't make dua against your wealth, against yourselves, against your children, lest or perhaps you will coincide with a time where Allah will be accepting dua and He'll accept it. So it could be. You're making that dua and you're conscious of it. If you're not conscious of what you're saying, is different. You're conscious of it and Allah could accept it. So yes, if that happens, just go back and make the opposite dua and ask for forgiveness. And we hope that Allah will take it away. Inshallah. Yeah.
It's also like about whether we do a dua like this.
I'm sorry?
We do dua like this, against your kids or against your children. Is it part of your qada that you said that also?
Part of qada and qadar, that it's destined that you're going to do this. Yes, of course, it's destined that you're going to do this, right? So definitely, right? But you're still responsible for it. That's what we're saying, that you had control and you could stop doing it if you decide to stop doing it, right? After the fact, it's done, Okay, it had to happen. But before the thing happens, you have a choice. But you can stop it from happening. So that's what we're saying, try to stop. Okay, let's see. Yeah. No.
The true message of Islam because of the media
No.
manipulations and all that. Will they have an excuse?
No, barakallah. Because that question is about non-believers who did not receive the message of Islam or the pure message of Islam, or what they know about Islam is all this misinformation. So will they have an excuse before Allah Azza wa Jal? And the simple answer is yes. So the one who's responsible for Allah, the non-believer who is responsible for Allah, is the one who received the full message of Islam and they rejected it. So they did not receive flawed ideas about the Quran, or lies about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or misinformation about Islam and its Sharia. That's the only thing that they know, and then based on that they decide not to accept Islam or to reject it or not to investigate it. That person did not receive the message. For them to actually have received the message, meaning that they've received the pure message of Islam. When that person receives it and he has no doubts about it and his question's been answered and then decides not to follow, then he's responsible and he will have no excuse before Allah for that rejection.
What if they heard about it but they didn't investigate?
Now, even so, they heard about Islam but they did not investigate. Even so,
They had the means to investigate.
they still have the means to investigate. Everybody, almost, not everybody, but a lot of people have the means to investigate, but not everybody has the reason, right? So not until the message actually comes to them and they're presented with that message. Because before that, we cannot say that they received the message. A messenger did not come to them. So how could the messenger come to them? The message itself will be carried to them and a person will talk to them about it and clear any doubts that they may have. Barring that, we can't say that they actually have received it. Because a person yes, Islam is there, but they may not feel any reason for them to go and investigate. What is so special about it? So sometimes it actually needs to come to them. Yeah. So you're talking about a dream. So a dream, and the interpretation of that dream is that there's going to be a loss of something, right? So what should you do about it? How do you respond to it? Should you ask Allah for it not to happen? Should you give sadaqah? Dreams and their interpretation are tricky, so you don't know exactly if that actually what it means or not. So first of all, I mean, if you have a dream, only offer it for interpretation to someone who knows how to interpret a dream. And most people don't know how to interpret dreams, and don't rely on websites, and don't rely on books, because that's not really comprehensive or highly accurate. And even sometimes what you read in a book, that may apply to a particular situation, but not yours. So a person who will interpret a dream will not only interpret a dream based on what you see, but will ask, who are you, what gender sometimes, what your circumstances, and based on that, based on like a collection of all of this, then a dream will be interpreted. So that's one. Your question is good, and I will need to think about it, because a couple of things come to mind, but let me think about it, inshallah, and give you an answer later, so that I actually be giving you the right answer. Because I remember that the Prophet ﷺ, saw what predicted the loss at the Battle of Uhud, but he didn't do anything about it. And there was no dua. I don't recall that there was a dua or in something that he had made to avoid that. So let me think about it, inshallah, investigate it more, and I'll come back to you, inshallah, on that. Is there anything else? Like, if there's anything related to this topic, inshallah, that I didn't talk about, but you want me to talk about next week, let me know, inshallah. And otherwise, jazakumullahu khaira for attending and for your questions. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Alhamdulillah.